All right, welcome back everybody to another episode of Hook the Line. We're going to be switching it up a little bit this week. So normally we do all of our game previews and predictions in one big video. This week we're going to switch it up a little bit and we're going to do individual videos. So this one right here that you're tuning into is going to be number 22 Missouri at number 8 Oklahoma, who just earned themselves currently a playoff spot after a giant win in Tuscaloosa that I don't know if a lot of us saw coming. I'm sure there's some people out there that'll say they saw it coming. I definitely didn't see it coming, but props to Oklahoma and John Mateer for putting themselves in a position where if they win out now, they're in the playoffs. So big game against Missouri. You got a freshman quarterback, Matt Zollers, going on the road into a tough road environment. Spread is currently 6.5 for Oklahoma. This game is at noon, and the over-under is a low 42.5. Give me your thoughts, you Scott.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep, big one. You mentioned it. Oklahoma went on the road, beat a Bama team, and I don't know how many people saw it coming, but good for them. It's a big win. Bama kind of beat themselves a little bit. Oklahoma did play pretty well, so they earned the win. But now heading into this week, right? They got to do it again. They really pretty much have to win out in order to be playing in the postseason. So they go back home against Missouri. You mentioned Zollers. Pete Thamel, the ESPN college football guy, actually announced that Bo Prabula is questionable for this game.
Okay.
He's medically cleared to play, but it's going to come down to a coach's decision and player's decision, I think either today or early tomorrow, on whether or not he will actually start the game, which is huge if you want to consider that. But I was able to consider that before we headed into this. So you get him back, which is huge because, Ahmad Hardy's been playing really well for them. And obviously he's probably a top running back along with Jeremiah Love in the game right now. And so if you have two threats on the ground, I know he had an ankle injury, so maybe he doesn't run a ton, but that's part of his game. So they'll probably attack with his legs as well. So you have two threats in the run game, which is really important, and makes linebackers have to play really disciplined. And he's got a good arm too. So, but Oklahoma D is probably going to be their best test that they've played. They had played Auburn. Perbula's played Auburn, and who's actually got a decent defense, but Vandy doesn't have a great defense. So this is a good test for him, obviously. But I really think this is Ahmad Hardy's game to showcase his abilities, maybe cement himself as a first rounder in the draft, maybe second round, because he really did. He had a hell of a game against Mississippi State and kind of showed off his skills to the world that I think are going to be huge in this game, because I think that's their key to success if they want to win this game. So let's look at it real quick. Okay, so this is from last week against Mississippi State at home. They kind of use Hardy all over the place in the run game, but this is kind of just a perfect example of why he's, like, in my eyes, a really talented running back and should be considered on an NFL level, honestly. So simple inside zone here, just zone block. They kind of get double teams here and here, but zone concept. And I honestly think Mississippi State covers as well. They got really all gaps covered, so there's not much space for Hardy to run. And then it's important for these outside guys to keep contained so that he doesn't break them off this way and that way. But he's going to read his block pretty well. Linebackers come down, fill holes. He could go this way. He could break it up here, trying to get north and south, get a few yards. But what he's going to do is he's just going to simply bounce this out. And, this is kind of on this guy to not keep contained. But even that, he's too deep and he's gone, right? A little stiff arm. And another point of this, is this breakaway speed. It's what got Saquon Barkley 2,000 yards last year. It's what sets guys over the edge. So, right, if you're Mississippi State, you're just trying to get him down just to continue the drive a little bit. But they're just simply not going to catch him. And I think that's huge for Missouri in a game against Oklahoma, right? If he gets brought down here, you bring up another few offensive plays, things could go wrong, right? So this is huge for Missouri to have this guy on, and I think is their key to success. Okay? So all things considered, right? Obviously, Prabula's status is one to watch, but I have Missouri winning this football game. And it's very controversial, but I'm not a big Sooners fan. That's me personally. Sorry to the Sooners fans maybe watching this, but they were able to put together a few wins. Mateer's playing better, getting healthier, but he really needs to play a clean football game for them to win this game. And he did it last week, but I think he's got 7 picks this year to his like 8 touchdowns. Like that ratio is just terrible. A lot of them came in the Texas game, so you know it's kind of inflated, but he really has to keep the game in check, play really clean in order to continue his success. But I don't know. I think Missouri puts a lot of pressure on him. I think if they're able to run the ball effectively, then they don't have to put the ball in harm's way. So they, you got to play complementary football, and I really like this Missouri team on a sell high spot for Oklahoma, and a team I really don't want to see in the playoff, but they've earned it, especially if they win this game. So let me hear you.
Yeah, no, I think you brought up a great point. I mean, that's what I have written down here. Ahmad Hardy. I mean, he's on 1,300 yards for the season, 15 touchdowns, and that Mississippi State performance, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Guy's an absolute monster. But he is going against a very good run defense. Oklahoma's allowed about 82 yards per game so far. And the key thing with Brent Venables in this Oklahoma defense that I've seen time and time again is they don't allow whatever offense they're playing to do what they like to do best. They're very good at making you get away from your tendencies, kind of making you switch it up and throw a little wrinkle in there. So I look at just like turnovers, like Bama, Ty Simpson's only thrown 1 pick on the year. They were able to get a pick on him, plus 2 fumbles in the backfield last week, which is part of the reason why they won that game. I mean, you could probably argue that without, if you even take over one of those turnovers, Bama probably wins that game. But they've done it consistently. I mean, when they played Tennessee on the road in Neyland, they got 3 turnovers again. This time, 2 picks, a fumble. So that's going to be something for Missouri, depending on whether it's Perbula. He'll probably be better at taking care of the football a little bit. But Zollers, I think if he's playing, might get himself into a little bit of trouble with this pass rush. They love to strip sack. They love to get fumbles. Ahmad Hardy has been a great rusher. He has put the ball on the ground. I think he put the ball on the ground like last week, maybe one other time. I don't expect him to do that consistently. I think he's good enough that he'll, learn from that and keep it. And especially in this game, they'll probably coach him to take care of the ball, just get down, make sure you get that cradle, both arms on the ball, stuff like that. So I could see it. I think it's just going to be a really difficult game if Purbuell is not playing for Missouri to do what they want, which is run the ball down your throat and have Ahmad Hardy as a difference maker around there. And I'm not sure their guys on the outside, their weapons on the outside at receiver are good enough to cause a threat to Oklahoma to make them drop back. I mean, I think of it a little bit of when I watched Oklahoma play Auburn, and Auburn is a team that wants to run the ball, that wants to do that. And luckily, they have Cam Coleman on the outside, so he was able to hit for a couple big plays during that game. But in general, Oklahoma shut down Auburn's run game and kind of shut down Auburn in general because of that. And I'm not saying that Missouri and Auburn are that comparable, but in terms of the way they play with the freshman QB of wanting to run the ball, I think they're a little bit comparable. Now, you bring up a good point with Prabila playing. So I think that adds a giant wrinkle in their experience. It's going to cause you to drop back. So with my prediction, I'm probably going to go and just to add on to that, I mean Missouri's had a turnover in their last one of each of their last 3 games, so they're going to need to stop that in order to win this game. Um, but I'm going to currently have, if Zollers is playing, I'm going to say 27-16 Oklahoma to win. I just think being at home is a little bit too much against a freshman quarterback, against the defense that is trained against kind of the best of the best now. And now they're getting to kind of feast at this. But Ahmad Hardy, I mean, like you said, he could cement himself as a first round draft pick. I could very much seeing him kind of taking over this game. And if you allow him to get the run going and you're Oklahoma, like there's not a whole lot you can do if a run game is beating you. There's some things you can do if a pass game is beating you. You can switch to man, you can switch to zone, you can kind of apply more pressure. If a run game is beating you, that is a very hard thing to kind of get away from. So I'd say if Purbuell is playing, I'm going to change it to 27-24. If he's not playing, 27-16. Either way, I think I'm going to have Oklahoma winning this one.
Yeah, one of us is going to be right, so that's good here. But huge game for Oklahoma. They know that, so I'm sure that they are going to put together a decent game plan. But it's hard for them to prepare because they don't know which quarterback's going to play because they're kind of two different styles of quarterback,
Mhm.
which is something interesting to watch. But regardless, good football game, good very one of the very few good SEC games this week. Usually we have a ton, but this is really the only one.
Yeah, this is cupcake week for the SEC, so a lot of teams are getting their beat downs. late in the season. But Missouri, I mean, if they go and win this game, it's a question of what does it mean? I don't think that they're anywhere near getting in the playoff picture. I think this is all about Oklahoma staying in the playoff picture, staying out. But if Missouri gets a win, I don't think, like you said, Oklahoma, and I think we both kind of agree on this, is one of the weaker teams to currently be in the playoffs right now. I know they got to win against Bama, but the committee holds Bama very, very highly, and they should. I
That
mean,
shows. Yep.
time again, but that win was really massive. But if you really look at that game, Bama probably should have been able to take that game. And I think in a playoff scenario in a neutral environment, Bama does take that game in the playoffs. So, you know, it's a toss up back and forth, but we'll see. I'd like to see chaos this weekend, so I wouldn't be mad if your Missouri pick hits.
We'll see because it'll shake things up, which is always good for the sport. So
Yeah, but that's on noon on Saturday, so it should be a fun one to kick off the day of college football.
yes, sir.
All right.